From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wildcast podcast. Justin Spears here with Michael Lev. We're coming at you after the Arizona-Cal game in Berkeley. The Wildcats now turn their attention to the Colorado Buffaloes coming up this Saturday in Tucson. We'll talk more about that game with sports editor of the Arizona Daily Star, Ryan Finley, later on in the week. But let's look back on what we saw this past Saturday in Berkeley when Arizona took on Cal. And then we're also going to answer your mailbag questions that you guys submitted earlier on Monday as my phone and laptop keep going off here. Let me make sure we silence all of these. Lev, how was your trip?
So many devices.
I know, man.
Justin, you're so popular.
It's buzzing right now. It's a group chat for a wedding that I'm attending.
Oh,
and they're like, hey, guys, RSVP, get your suits fitted.
Is that one this week or the following week?
No, it's a late October.
Late October.
So,
okay.
Or no, it's in December. I'm going to another wedding in October. I got a lot of weddings that I'm going to here the next few months.
People should not be scheduling weddings during football season. But, you
Right?
know, that's another subject for another time.
But
Cal,
how was your trip?
Yeah, trip was fine. The game didn't play out the way I thought at all. I thought it would be kind of a
Low-scoring
grinder, low-scoring type of game. That was kind of Cal's MO coming in. And I didn't think that Arizona would be able to move the ball against them as well as they did. And I certainly did not foresee Arizona's run defense just completely falling apart. We did get a chance to talk to Jed Fish about that a little bit today. And the two main issues that he cited were poor tackling, which was pretty evident, and then gap integrity. He was mentioning how sometimes two guys would be in one gap and then therefore no guys would be in the next gap over, and that was creating these huge rushing lanes for Jaden Ott, who had a historic, once-in-a-lifetime kind of game. I mean, 274 rushing yards for a true freshman, 270-plus yard touchdowns, even injured Jackson Turner, who tried to tackle him at one point. I mean, he was a one-man wrecking crew. And I broke all of that down in my 5 takeaways, which everyone should check out on Tucson.com, along with a couple of other subjects. But definitely worrisome that the defense is kind of trending in the wrong direction. Our pal Blair Willis tweeted that they've given up more yards per play in each succeeding week since that impressive performance against San Diego State in the opener. So gotta definitely be worried about that side of the ball right now.
Yeah. I think that PFF counted how many missed tackles for Arizona?
I think it was 17. I'll double check, though.
17 missed tackles for Arizona. I'm wondering how that compares to North Dakota State and also Mississippi State. And, I thought Mississippi State, they did a pretty good job considering of how Mississippi State operates on offense. It's a lot of quick passes, getting receivers out into the open. You would think if Arizona was going to have a game where they have a lot of missed tackles, it's against an opponent like Mississippi State. But it seemed like the defense was kind of trending in the wrong direction. And then against Cal, especially in the third quarter, it all kind of imploded for Arizona. The Bears got momentum, and Arizona, they kind of got back into the game. Dorian Singer made one hell of a catch down the sideline. Arizona scored, but then Jaden Delora with his interception. Arizona was just unable to capitalize on the little bit of good that the defense did in the second half.
17 missed tackles against Cal. This is according to Pro Football Focus, and they do update their grades after they watch the game a couple times. So that could change over the course of the week. But season high, 8 against North Dakota State, which was a season low. They did really well in that regard. And then 12 apiece against Mississippi State and San Diego State. So definitely higher than it's been. And we had a interesting discussion with Jed about tackling during the season. He comes from the NFL.
Yeah.
It's just pretty much not done there. And I don't think it's done that much in college either.
Yeah.
Live tackling during the season, it's just kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah.
So how do you get better at it? And he talked about they do tackling drills, and he said they're going to do twice as many as they've been doing. So maybe that'll help. But I think a lot of it, like he mentioned, is positioning. I also have a theory that I threw out there in 5 takeaways, that kind of the cumulative effect of playing so many snaps on defense and not substituting, not rotating, I think that kind of caught up with them. They just didn't look like they had their legs.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I don't know, Justin, you go play pickup basketball or or whatever, and maybe you're tired and you just don't have your legs under you. You don't have that same kind of burst or quickness. That's what I sensed in Arizona. Like Jerry Roberts, I really like him as a kid. I think he's a good player. He's playing too many snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing almost 100% of the snaps. That's too much. I think the defensive tackles, at least they rotated them a little bit, but the defensive ends, they're playing almost 100%. They only subbed in the back end because Jackson Turner got injured. They need to play more players, and even if those guys end up making some mistakes, I think you have to look at kind of the long-term benefits of that, not only for those guys, but for the veterans that you're able to give some rest to.
I'm wondering what happened with Malik Reed, because
it's a great question.
Because he was a guy that we all thought was going to be the next guy next to Jerry all season long, and then Colby Cage came along, kind of took his spot, and then we haven't seen Malik Reed since then. But if you look at Malik Reed and his body frame compared to the others, he's more of a Jerry Roberts than a Colby Cage or an Amon Allen.
Look, Amon Allen and Colby Cage might very well end up being good players here, but they are both converted safeties who've been kind of bulked up into linebackers. They're probably both in that 210, 215-pound range, which, I mean, that's below the standard, really, for what you want a linebacker to be. You want that guy to be in the 225 to 235 range.
Yeah.
And Malik Reed is a really interesting topic and something to ask Johnny Nansen about on Tuesday.
Most definitely. Well, good news for Arizona. They have Colorado this week. And Colorado, if you look at how many yards they're averaging per run, they're averaging right around 3 per run this season. But if you look at Arizona and how much they've given up over the last couple of games, the Wildcats are giving up almost 8 yards a carry against Cal and North Dakota State. And if you're Colorado, you kind of have to be licking your chops at, hey, if there's an element to this game in which we can win, it's certainly running the ball, because that's definitely a weakness for Arizona. And we expected Jaden Knott to have a big game against the Wildcats. We've heard a lot of good things about him. Do we expect him to go off for, 274 rushing yards? Not even.
No, certainly not.
Yeah. So I mean,
look, I wrote in my 3 things to watch.
So I'm saying is that even though Cal's bad,
I will distill the game plan for you. Slow down Jaden Knott, force Jack Plummer into uncomfortable, long distance conversion situations, and they did not succeed.
Yeah.
They did not execute that game plan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if I'm Colorado coming in here with a true freshman quarterback, the son, I think his name is Owen. I think that's his first name, Owen McCown.
Owen McCown, son of Josh McCown.
Son of Josh.
Feel old.
Making his second career appearance. I would definitely look at the film and how can we make this as easy as possible for our young quarterback. Run the football.
Yeah.
Make Arizona prove that they can stop it.
No kidding.
I'm sure Cal looked at the North Dakota State film. Granted, they're a very run-heavy team, but I'm sure they were like, hey, there might be some stuff we can exploit here.
Yeah.
And they dialed up some really nice plays, and Jaden Knott is a special talent, and he took full advantage.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Arizona on the offensive side of the ball. So Jaden Delora had a career high in passing yards. Was awesome in that first half. In the second half, got in some trouble, obviously, through that pick late in the game that I believe was on second down, which was just a forced throw. Jaden knows that he definitely should have had that back. Jed Fish said it in his press conference today that was a pick that Jaden wishes he had back. So Jaden's still learning, even though that he's a veteran and a very prominent quarterback for Arizona. There's still a lot of growing pains that they're going through in the early stages of this year. But I thought all around, Jaden Delora was awesome. The connection with him and Jacob Cowling has been really fun to watch. We saw it initially in the San Diego State game, and then it really came back to life against Cal. I mean, Jacob Cowling is the real deal. How many yards did he finish with?
I think it was 133.
Yeah. And then Tanner McLaughlin with the amount of yards that he had. I mean,
2 diving catches.
It was insane.
Terrific.
And I looked at it. I'm like, okay, he's got like almost 90 yards. When's the last time a Arizona tight end has had a performance like that. And I found out that Jamie Nunley had a 116-yard performance.
Yeah, he had two catches
Yeah.
for 116.
And then the time before that, we're talking about the Rob Gronkowski era, the last time an Arizona tight end has put up that many yards. So Tanner McLaughlin has been an awesome addition for Arizona on the offense. We'll talk more about the other tight ends because we actually have a mailbag question coming up here. But overall, Lev, takeaways on Arizona's offense and how they performed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shame of this game to me is that I thought this was the offensive line's best performance of the season, and they really weren't able to take advantage of that. Yeah, I mean, they did a really good job picking up blitzes. I thought the run blocking was pretty sharp. I mean, of course, there was a play here and a play there. I mean, I'm not sure what happened on that option pitch play. There was kind of a free defender in the area. I think after, at least, and from me viewing it, that they should have audibled out of it because Cal had a pretty loaded box against the run, that it would have been wise to audible to a bubble screen or something of that nature. But the way that they were operating in this game reminded me of last year's ASU game, where all of a sudden they're completing a ton of passes in that kind of intermediate middle of the field area where they weren't. So if you look at the PFF breakdown, the intermediate center is what we'll call that. Jaden was 9 of 14 for 171 yards, by far the most of any area. If you look at the depth, 11 of 17 on passes between 10 and 19 yards, 213 of his yards, so over half. And they were repeatedly taking advantage of that space between the linebackers and the safeties. It was a thing.
To mix sports metaphors, what is this compared to? Baseball getting a bunch of singles in center field, or
no, those are extra base hits, man. Those are doubles. Yeah, those are solid doubles off the wall.
Yeah,
they, the home runs haven't been there. And if you look at Jaden's completion percentage on passes of 20 plus for the season compared to what he was at Washington State, those numbers are down. Yeah. So I think there's a little work to be done there for sure. The question I have, and it was brought up in the presser today, is should they have been running the ball more? I mean, it's hard to argue when you throw for 400 yards, and like I said, they had great success in the intermediate areas. But man, they were running the ball so well, and it just felt like a game to me where your defense is struggling. Maybe going to tempo isn't the best idea. Yeah. Maybe huddle, maybe slow things down, maybe kind of, try to slow the game a little bit. Give your defense a break. They didn't really do that. I mean, I thought all the running backs looked good. They're the ones that they used. I said the run blocking was pretty crisp. Wouldn't surprise me at all if this was a heavy run game against Colorado, especially if they're ahead by a lot, a game where they could go over 200. Colorado's had trouble defending just about every aspect, off passing, running, etc. But I don't know. Jed said after the game, I don't want to be a team that passes for 400 yards and rushes for 140. And I'm kind of like, well, you're the one who makes those decisions, he can create more balance if he wants to. I understand they were behind in the fourth quarter. That definitely changes things. But I think there was a stretch in the third quarter where they could have been a little bit more balanced.
Well, I think they got themselves into that position to where they just had to rely on their passing offense because they started to throw the ball efficiently because the running attack really started to open things up. And then it was working so well for them. They're like, okay, we're going to just commit to this. It's working. We're dicing up Cal right now. And then eventually Cal punched back. Justin Wilcox is a great defensive coach. They had a great game plan coming out in the second half. And you started to see the X's and O's start to play in favor of Cal. And then once Arizona got behind, it was like, well, now we can't run the ball. Now we have to force it. We have to use Jaden's arm and rely on Jacob Cowing and T-Mac and Dorian Singer. I mean, in which they did step up. Like T-Mac had that great catch in the end zone. Dorian Singer down the sideline was awesome. Jacob Cowing was great in the second half. But just Arizona just got too far behind. And I agree with you, Lev. I think that they definitely should have started running the ball more in the third quarter.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
To the surprise of absolutely no one, Jaden Ott is not only the freshman of the week in the Pac-12, he's also the offensive player of the week in the Pac-12. I actually voted for Bo Nix for offensive player because I just kind of like to spread the love. I knew that Jaden Ott was going to win freshman of the week, but certainly deserving. An amazing game.
You were that guy that doesn't want to make it unanimous? You're like, all right, we can't just give this guy the award. I got to be that wrinkle in it.
He was going to win another award.
You're that baseball voter when it comes
I'm
to the Hall of Fame.
I'm not. Nope. I'm not that guy. Nope. You have me pegged all wrong.
Love it. All right, let's go to the Twitter mailbag. Appreciate those who have submitted questions. I found a very interesting one, Lev, and it was actually emailed to me, and I forwarded this to you. It comes from Will Salzman, and Will, we appreciate you. Maybe he doesn't have a Twitter and is like, hey, you guys do these mailbag questions, and I want to get in on it, so I'm going to send you the email. So, Will, we appreciate it. And Will said in the email, hi, Justin, with all the money grab going on in college football and the recent game in Ireland got me thinking, when will there be a game in Mexico City? I'd love to see, for example, University of Texas versus University of Arizona at the Azteca Stadium. What are you and Lev's thoughts?
I think that's a great question. I think it's a great idea. I'm all for it. As we know, because the NFL has staged games in Mexico, there's a great following. The people of Mexico love football. I think there are a ton of Mexican-American NFL and college football fans, especially in this region.
Yeah, no doubt.
Southern California, the Southwest. I think it would be an absolutely fantastic opportunity for those teams to experience another country. You don't have to go all the way to Ireland to do that. You can go to a neighboring country here. I'd love it. I'm all for it. I want to go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And I think it'd be great because I think we might see like 60-yard field goals in college football because
big elevation there too.
The
right?
elevation up there. Is it higher than Denver?
It's in the range.
Yeah.
How long of a field goal could Lucas Haversick make in Azteca Stadium? 75 yards?
He made 57 at Arizona Stadium. There's no doubt in my mind he would go 60 plus. But yeah, I would love to go down to Mexico City. Like you said, they have a great following. A lot of NFL games have been played down there. A lot of great experiences, and I think the fans would definitely love that. Now, in terms of opponents, Arizona versus Texas, why not?
You have to have like a quote unquote draw, right? And Texas is obviously as big a brand as there is in college football, and also your Texas is on the border of Mexico. So I'm sure there are a lot of Texas fans in that region, one side or the other. That would be a really cool matchup. Has Arizona ever played Texas?
Oh, man. I can't think of anything. The only Tucson, Texas connection I know is Bijan Robinson, but I can't remember the last time Arizona ever played against the Longhorns. Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah,
Vamos.
I hope your guy Bijan's all right. That was a really awkward tackle that he took. In overtime.
Yeah, the one where he fumbled it.
Yeah,
that was a tough one for him.
It's just a kind of an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, but Bijan still having a great season this year. Hope to see him in New York. Not looking so hot considering other potential Heisman candidates, but it's still a long season, so we'll see. All right, our next questions come from Diesel Fuel. And Diesel Fuel asks, where has Kean Burnett been at tight end? And that's a great question. And that's actually what I referred to earlier in the podcast when we were talking about Tanner McLaughlin. The other T-Mac, I think, is an experienced player. I mean, he played at Southern Utah. Now, granted, it is Southern Utah. You would think, okay, a walk-on transfer from Southern Utah or the highest-rated tight end to come to Arizona since Rob Gronkowski, who is going to get more playing time? We all assumed that it was going to be Kean Burnett, right? We thought that it was going to be him and Alex Lyons as the go-to tight ends. But Alex Lyons is a little bit different because, like Tanner McLaughlin, he also has experience playing college football. He had experience playing for Jordan Paopao at places prior to Arizona at UNLV. So there's an established connection there. There's already just game experience. And honestly, I think that's a good problem for Arizona, that you have this all-world tight end on your team and you kind of have him on the shelf because you're like, okay, we know that he's going to be a special player down the road. Why do we have to wear the tread down on these tires right now as a freshman when we have these other two tight ends that we can certainly use? And Tanner McLaughlin has been a great option at tight end for the Wildcats. So I think it's a good problem for Arizona.
Yeah, I think Kean kind of got Wally pipped a little bit, I mean.
Drew Bledsoe.
Right? I mean, Tanner McLaughlin's been phenomenal. It's like you can't take him off the field. I think he's playing more than Alex Lyons. Certainly getting more looks in the passing game than Alex Lyons. As Jed said today, Kean is going to be a special player here. And Kevin Green Jr. is going to be a special player. And A.J. Jones is going to be a special player. You don't have to play as a freshman. There's always such a rush these days because these guys have so much hype coming in. And then people freak out if they don't play. But, I mean, Arizona, to me, should be a quote-unquote developmental program, right? I mean, but a good chunk of their recruits should be guys who redshirt their first year, hit the weight room, get bigger, get stronger, and then they're here for 5 years. That's the ideal. Maybe it's not realistic in the age of the transfer portal, but that's how you want to do it. And Jacob Cowing's going to go pro after this season, and Kevin Green's probably going to jump in there as the slot receiver. And Kean Burnett is one injury away from being out on the field, and I mean, can you imagine him and Tanner on the field at the same time?
Man,
how about that?
Yeah, no kidding.
Huh? Go for big slots on either side. That's
lethal.
Yeah, that'd be a mismatch waiting to happen. So, regarding Texas, Arizona has never played Texas.
Never.
Arizona's never played Texas A&M either. Oh no! Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, no, I take it all back. All right. The sports reference sites do not apparently go far enough back, okay? They only go back to maybe the 50s. Arizona did play Texas in 1925.
Wow.
And they played Texas A&M in 1921. So one game apiece against each of those. So I'd say they haven't played them in the quote-unquote modern era.
Was bear down a thing then?
I don't know. This is the 1920s. They played Texas and Texas A&M.
I'm pretty sure John Button Salmon was an eighth.
Apparently, it wasn't like a home. apparently, it wasn't like a home and home series. So yeah, if they did play Texas or A&M in Azteca Stadium, it'd be the first time in 100+ years.
All right, our next question. Oh, by the way, going back to that other question about Kean Burnett and tight ends and using freshmen. One of our colleagues, David Kelly, asked in the press conference today about the wide receivers. Yeah, it was already expected that Jacob Cowing, Dorian Singer, and T-Mac were going to be the starting trio. But everyone thought that there was going to be a lot of rotation. Maybe you throw in a guy like a Kevin Green, who's this great slot receiver, was originally committed to USC, then flipped to Arizona. There's also A.J. Jones, the former UCLA commit, who then flipped to Arizona, and he's a big-time target as well. Technically, A.J. Jones does have a start. During the San Diego State game, he started the game while T-Mac was switching jerseys.
Anthony Simpson might have started last game. I think he might have been out there for the first snap.
Yeah, Anthony Simpson he gets in the mix too. Maybe not as much as we thought he would, but he's still another great wide receiver. But again, like Jed Fish said, we want to rely, and by we Arizona, they want to rely on the guys that they have now. He doesn't like to really go into the bag, by the bag I mean the depth chart, because you already have great receivers in the starting trio. And Jed Fish said, hey, I'm an NFL guy. And in the NFL, we don't rotate a lot of players, and the offense is going so fast, subbing players in and out, it can get problematic. So just keep things simple.
To sub. Yeah, look, I think it's different too. It's different when you're talking about wide receivers versus front seven defensive players.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
These wide receivers, they run all day. I mean, what did he say about Anthony Simpson? How much he was running in a given practice, 6,000 yards or something ridiculous like that. They're not getting pounded on like the defense might against a rushing attack like North Dakota State's. They're not engaging in physical battles on every single play, which happens with every defensive lineman and every linebacker. So to me, it's different.
Yeah.
And Jed also has an NFL background, and they don't have huge wide receiver rooms for the most part, and you kind of play your best guys. And he feels like those three are the best guys.
All right, our last question, Lev, from Joseph52. He asks, what is it going to take for Nansen to do a platoon swap on defense? There's maybe 3 guys on defense that have earned the right to not come off the field. How can we go into the next game with the same crew that couldn't stop a nosebleed these past 2 weeks?
Yeah, Jed said they were looking into various possibilities and combinations. They just have to take a leap of faith and play some guys that they haven't really trusted that much so far, and or guys who don't have that much experience. They just have to. Like I said, Jerry Roberts and Hunter Echols and Jalen Harris, they just can't play as many snaps as they've been playing.
Yeah.
It's going to affect their performance, and I think it did affect the team's performance this past week.
Yep.
You know? I got a question directly sent to me here, Justin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
From, I was the only one tagged here. Keith Stedman.
Okay.
Could you comment on the overall talent level of this team compared to mid and upper tier Pac-12 teams? We have talent at the offensive skill positions, but it appears we are hugely deficient everywhere else. What do you think about that one?
Wait, hold on. Repeat that question again. Sorry.
Okay. Could you comment on the overall talent level of this team compared to mid and upper level Pac-12 teams? We have talent at the offensive skill positions, but it appears we are hugely deficient everywhere else.
So offensive and defensive line.
Yeah.
Compared, I mean, but see, we were expecting that Arizona was going to compete against the Cals, the Colorados, Washington State. That might be another story because they look pretty good even in their loss to Oregon. We expected Arizona to be competitors in those games. Now against the upper echelon of the Pac-12, the Wildcats are not there just yet because they're so inexperienced. They have way too many freshmen to go up against a Utah or a USC. And while USC, they have a lot of new guys on their team, but if you look at their new guys, they're all through the transfer portal. It's all players who have come through Oklahoma or Oregon. Travis Dye had a great game against Oregon State. So yeah, Arizona, they're there. They're going to be competitive in most games this year, if not all of them. But compared to the upper echelon, I know it sounds cliche, but no, I just don't think they have enough.
All you have to do is look at the recruiting rankings, right? They had a top 25 class this past year. And when was the last time they had a top 25 class? I mean, it was like 15 years ago. You know, recruiting suffered toward, the tail end of Rich Rod. I think Kevin Sumlin had, I'd say, one pretty good class.
The 2019
class. But things really fell off. And if you're a believer in stars matter, they certainly do, to a large extent. That's all you have to do to see the difference. And I think the easiest thing to find, honestly, is wide receivers and running backs. The hardest thing to find is really good offensive tackles and defensive tackles and edge rushers.
Right away, too, like through the portal.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants those. As soon as a good offensive tackle goes in the portal, every school in the country is trying to get those guys.
Yeah.
And Arizona, I think they did a nice job with Hunter Echols and Jerry Roberts, to give a couple of examples of portal acquisitions, and some of them haven't worked out that well either. I mean, Anthony Solomon only plays on special teams.
Yeah.
You mentioned Malik Reed, hasn't seen the field.
Isaiah Rutherford has had his moments.
Yeah.
He's been good, but he's also had his moments.
Yeah. I think if, Traden Stukes hadn't gotten hurt, he would have played 80% of the snaps this season, and he's been kind of in and out of the lineup, and Rutt's gone back in there as a result. But that's all you got to do to answer that question. Look at the recruiting rankings, and if Jed and his staff can continue to bring in top 25 classes, they will catch up to the other schools in the Pac-12.
Real quick, thoughts on the Pac-12 this past weekend, Lev? I thought it was going to be wild. I thought, man, Washington State and others, man, they might actually Oregon State against USC. I thought that they were going to be cannibalists and ruin the Pac-12, but both the Ducks and the Trojans survive.
Yeah, I would say that Oregon State kind of, shot themselves in the foot. I mean, too many turnovers. Really, they could have easily won that game. They amazingly held down USC's high-powered offense, unlike anyone has. And, Jonathan Smith is a really good coach.
Same with Jim
regardless of the
Mahalchek.
results. Yeah.
Jim Mahalchek, baby.
So is Jim Mahalchek. And, that Oregon-Washington State game was absolutely wild. Crazy swings in the fourth quarter, especially if you had wagered on the game. Either way, it kind of hung in the balance. That's a really big win for Oregon. It kind of keeps them alive.
Yep.
As far as, playing in the Pac-12 championship game, the playoff. I mean, if Oregon can run the table and their only loss is to Georgia, they're probably going to be in the playoff. This league is interesting this year. I think there's 5 or 6 really good teams, and then there's a few teams at the bottom that are not very good. And Colorado, obviously, we'll talk about them more later in the week. They are really struggling.
Yeah.
In all aspects. They got absolutely hammered in the transfer portal with a lot of their good players leaving. ASU is a mess with an interim coach. I mean, can you imagine what is the crowd going to be on October 8th for a 1 p.m. kickoff against Washington?
Oh, man.
Like 95-degree weather in Tempe.
Yeah, not too many people
I
are going.
mean, that's going to be brutal. And then Stanford. I may have to jump off the bandwagon finally.
Love David Shaw.
It's just not happening for them.
Yeah.
They are just not what they were. I think Arizona's a notch above those 3. We'll see.
Yep.
This Saturday if that's true.
Also, big shout out to former Arizona kicker Nick Folk for setting an NFL record this weekend. 57 consecutive field goals under 50 yards. That is an NFL record that he set in the Patriots' loss to the Baltimore Ravens. So huge shout out to the former Wildcat for making NFL history. And with that being said, that is it for this episode of the Wildcast podcast. Don't forget to download the Wildcaster app for free off the App Store and Google Play. Be sure to check out our work on Tucson.com. Get an online subscription today so you don't miss anything on the Arizona Wildcats. And as always, subscribe, rate, and review the Wildcast podcast.
Did you say that app is free?
It is free.
Free.
So I'm over here saying, hey, subscribe on Tucson.com, but you can download an app for free. Now, it doesn't have everything.
No.
There are some things we got to subscribe to, like Hanson stuff. Some of your stuff is subscriber-only content, but for the most part, we have a lot of good free stuff. If you do
those 2 things, a digital subscription and download the Wildcaster app, you'll be covered. You'll have everything.
No doubt. And we also send out push alerts, too.
Yeah.
So stay up to date. Download that Wildcaster app today.
It's a great deal.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening.